Welcome back to GMA, and now to more of Diane Sawyer's exclusive interview with Sue Klebold, the mother of Dylan Klebold, one of the shooters in the Columbine High School massacre. Well, now, nearly 17 years later, Sue is sharing her story in the new memoir, A Mother's Reckoning, and speaking out about the serious signs she may have missed.
Sometimes he would seem, distant or quiet, and I remember asking him, "Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? You seem so tired," and he'd stand up and say, "I've got a lot of homework, I need to go to bed."
And you let it go.
And I let it go. And that's the difference. I would dig, if it were me today, I would dig and dig and dig.
Were you distracted?
Well, of course, because we're human. I mean, we all have things that distract us. You can't say I was too busy to notice that my son was falling apart.
Could you have prevented what happened to Columbine?
If I had recognized that Dylan was experiencing some real mental distress, he would not have been there. He would have gotten help. I don't ever for a moment mean to imply that I'm not conscious of the fact that he was a killer, because I am.
A year and a half before the Columbine massacre, her son is a junior for a series of troubling events. He hacks into the school computer system with some friends. They're all suspended for 3 days. He scratches an epithet on the locker of a kid he thinks is taunting him. Then the big shock. He and another kid break into a van, steal electronic equipment, and police make an arrest.
This is a felony, 2 felony
It was terrible,
counts.
I know, absolutely. It was awful. And at the time, I thought that was the worst thing I could ever possibly experience.
The court sentences the boys with leniency, a year of counseling and community service. A mother worries about her withdrawn son, but allows herself to be reassured when he is released early from community service with a glowing assessment of his bright future.
He's a good kid. You don't need to worry about Dylan.
Sue Klebold says she used to look through his room during his junior year, but by his senior year, she decides to respect his privacy. With distance and regret, she now says how wrong that decision was.
Would you ransack his room now?
I would. I'd do it as if his very life was depending on it, and I would do it with love.
We want to note that while preparing this report, ABC News did extensive research and consulted various law enforcement experts, and we reached out to all the families of the victims to hear more from them. Joining me now is one of the experts seen in that special, retired FBI agent, profiler, and director of the Forensic Science Department at George Mason University, Mary Ellen O'Toole. Thanks for being with us this morning, Mary Ellen.
You're welcome.
We now know that people did raise some red flags. There was a concerned teacher about Dylan. There were some parents who alerted police about Eric's website. Today, can we better connect those dots?
We can better connect them today, certainly, but back then, we did not know what those individual puzzle pieces meant, but today we can pull them all together and give them a lot more significance.
I know that looking back at Dylan's journals, it was pretty clear after the fact that he was suicidal. But how does someone go from being suicidal to homicidal? What are the warning signs?
It's important to understand what leakage is, and leakage is really forecasting what someone wants to do. And in this case, yes, he was suicidal, and he saw suicide as a way to get out of his hopelessness. But homicide is a way to get revenge towards people that you blamed for your life. And he was considering both. They're both along the same dimensional scale, so it's not that much of a transition for him.
After the fact, looking at those journals, there were so many warning signs. Journals that we just heard from Dylan's mother, she did not read because she wanted to respect her son's privacy. What is your recommendation to parents who may have concerns? Is it okay, as we just heard Dylan's mom say, now she would ransack his room with love?
Sure, it makes sense. The family has to understand what their culture is, and we call that in the FBI, who rules the roost? Who's in charge of that family? Despite who pays the mortgage, families want to be aware of not just the privacy, but does it slide into secrecy? And does that secrecy become supported by behavioral changes, not talking to the family, becoming very distant, showing even physical changes, not caring about their hygiene? So you look at, is it secret, and what are the concomitant behaviors that support the fact that this person has nothing more to do with the family?
I know, Mary Ellen, you wrote the manual on how to prevent school shootings like what we saw in Columbine. At least 79 attacks have been thwarted since that day. What are the most important things that everyone needs to know?
Everyone can see warning signs. They just need to know what they're looking for. And we are asking people, don't vet these signs. If you see something, you need to call a professional and don't try to interpret it yourself. And I will also say this, it's a gut-wrenching experience to pick up the phone and have to call 911, but you could be saving their life and the life of many other people. It has to be done.
Yeah, parents, friends, teachers, community
Cafeteria
members.
workers, bus drivers, roommates. These warning signs are not limited to one group of people.
Well, this is life-saving information. Mary Ellen, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time this morning.
You're welcome.